What if I told you that science and spirituality, two forces often seen as opposing, actually converge in profound ways to help us understand the mysteries of the universe and guide us toward a better future? Imagine a world where the wisdom of ancient philosophies aligns with the groundbreaking discoveries of modern science, offering us not just technological advancements, but deeper insights into the human condition and the interconnectedness of all things. This is the promise of combining the scientific genius of Albert Einstein with the spiritual wisdom of the Buddha. In a time when technological innovation and global challenges are shaping our world, the insights of both these thinkers provide an essential framework for addressing our most pressing issues. Einstein, with his revolutionary theories on the nature of the universe, and the Buddha, with his timeless teachings on the nature of suffering and the path to enlightenment, offer complementary tools to guide us toward a more harmonious, compassionate, and enlightened future. As we delve deeper into the realms of science and spirituality, the convergence of these two worlds holds transformative potential. The very nature of the universe, as understood by Einstein, is interconnected and fluid. The Buddhist teachings on compassion, mindfulness, and the impermanence of the self echo these insights, offering us a path to transcend our limitations and create a future of unity and understanding. But how can these seemingly disparate worlds come together in meaningful ways? And what can we learn from both to guide us toward a future that embraces knowledge, wisdom, and compassion? This journey is not only about exploring the boundaries of science or spirituality, it is about finding the profound connection between them. From Einstein's theories of relativity to the Buddha's path of enlightenment, we see a deep resonance that reveals new possibilities for how we live, understand, and connect with the universe and each other. Let's explore how these two great minds, from different eras and cultural backgrounds, converge to offer a holistic approach to understanding existence and navigating the complexities of modern life. Part 1. The Philosophy of Science and Buddhism. Einstein's scientific mindset, a universe in unity. Albert Einstein's work fundamentally reshaped our understanding of the cosmos. His theories of relativity, which led to the iconic equation E equals mc2 equals mc caret 2 equals mc2, not only challenged the way we perceive time, space, and matter, but also revealed the profound interconnectedness of these elements. Einstein's groundbreaking discoveries made clear that the universe is not as separate as we once believed. Instead, it is a deeply unified system, where everything is linked by complex laws that govern energy and matter. Yet, Einstein was not just a physicist, he was also a philosopher. His contributions extended beyond mathematical equations and scientific theories. He sought to understand the fundamental truths of existence, truths that transcended the physical world and reached into the spiritual. Einstein himself acknowledged that scientific inquiry must always be grounded in a sense of wonder and respect for the mysteries of the universe. His belief in the unifying laws of nature led him to view the cosmos as a vast, interconnected whole, an idea that resonated with the teachings of many ancient spiritual traditions, including Buddhism. Einstein's life and work were driven by an unwavering pursuit of truth. He saw science not merely as a collection of facts, but as an ongoing process of discovery, a dynamic interplay between observation, reasoning, and intuition. He famously stated that the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. This sense of awe at the beauty of the universe, coupled with his drive to explore its secrets, aligns remarkably with the path of self-inquiry and understanding prescribed by Buddhism. Buddhism's scientific approach, methodology beyond dogma. Buddhism, though often considered a spiritual or religious tradition, offers a methodical and empirical approach to truth that mirrors the scientific process. The Buddhist teachings emphasize personal experience, observation, and logical reasoning. Central to Buddhist philosophy is the idea that one should never accept teachings on blind faith, but should instead test them through personal experience and mindfulness. The Buddhist teachings are grounded in the belief that reality is not something to be taken at face value, but is something that must be examined deeply. Unlike many religious systems that rely on unverified dogma or divine authority, Buddhism encourages individuals to investigate the nature of existence for themselves. The Buddha's path to enlightenment, known as the Noble Eightfold Path, outlines a systematic approach to understanding the nature of suffering and the steps necessary to end it. This is not a passive acceptance of a higher power's will, but an active engagement with life itself, examining our thoughts, actions, and perceptions in a manner similar to the way a scientist would approach an experiment. This philosophical approach allows Buddhism to sit comfortably alongside modern science in its respect for empirical validation. The Buddha's insistence on personal verification through experience echoes Einstein's scientific mindset. Just as Einstein rejected the notion of abstract, unquestioned theories in favor of evidence-based reasoning, Buddhism too encourages individuals to explore the truth through direct engagement with the world, not through dogma or hearsay. Key intersection: empirical validation and the pursuit of truth. The most compelling intersection between Einstein's scientific philosophy and the Buddhist teachings is their shared rejection of blind faith. Einstein was clear in his view that the universe should be studied and understood through observation and rigorous experimentation, not through unsubstantiated beliefs. For him, the pursuit of truth was a never-ending process, a journey through the unknown where each discovery led to new questions, and each answer uncovered deeper mysteries. Buddhism, too, embraces the idea of ongoing inquiry. The Buddha emphasized that enlightenment was not something that could be handed down through teachings alone, but something that had to be directly experienced. The process of awakening is not about believing in a set of preordained truths. It is about observing one's own mind and its tendencies, understanding the nature of suffering, and working through one's internal barriers to achieve liberation. The Buddha's approach was grounded in mindfulness and introspection, tools that were designed to bring clarity to the mind and dispel the illusions that cloud our perception of reality. For both Einstein and the Buddha, the pursuit of truth required a disciplined approach, one that involved observation, verification, and a willingness to challenge one's own assumptions. This is where the scientific method and Buddhist teachings align most powerfully. While Einstein looked outward into the vastness of space to discover the laws of the universe, the Buddha urged his followers to look inward, seeking to understand the nature of the mind and the causes of suffering. Both paths, however, required deep discipline and a commitment to uncovering the truth, not just in the external world, but within oneself. In practical terms, this approach is embodied in Einstein's dedication to the scientific method and the Buddha's emphasis on the Noble Eightfold Path. Both offer a framework for understanding the complexities of the universe, whether it is through the examination of physical laws or the contemplation of the mind. Just as scientists test hypotheses through experimentation, Buddhists cultivate mindfulness and meditation to directly observe the nature of their thoughts, emotions, and experiences. Einstein once stated, "Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind." This quote reflects his belief that scientific exploration and spiritual insight are complementary rather than contradictory. The Buddha, too, recognized the value of knowledge and understanding but emphasized that intellectual knowledge alone would not lead to liberation. Instead, he advocated for a balanced approach, one that integrates intellectual understanding with personal experience and ethical conduct. In this sense, both Einstein and the Buddha understood that truth is not found through intellectual pursuit alone, but requires direct engagement with life and the world around us. Bridging the gap, science, spirituality, and human flourishing. While Einstein's work largely focused on the physical world and the laws that govern it, his insights into the interconnectedness of all things can also be applied to the realm of human experience. In much the same way that he understood space and time as interconnected, Buddhism teaches that our lives, our suffering, and our happiness are deeply interconnected with the lives of others. The Buddhist teachings on compassion, non-attachment, and interdependence are principles that resonate not only with spiritual seekers, but with anyone who seeks to understand the human condition in a deeper way. For Einstein, the search for truth was not just an intellectual pursuit, it was an existential one. He believed that science had the power to elevate humanity, but that it could not address the deeper questions of ethics and meaning without also considering spirituality. Similarly, Buddhism offers a path that does not merely address the spiritual or the metaphysical, but also provides a framework for practical living, one that encourages compassion, mindfulness, and wisdom in our everyday lives. As we move forward in an increasingly scientific world, the teachings of both Einstein and the Buddha offer valuable insights for human flourishing, whether through scientific discovery or spiritual awakening. Both paths point toward the same ultimate goal: the understanding of the universe and our place within it. By embracing both science and spirituality, we can cultivate a life that is not only informed by knowledge but also guided by compassion and wisdom. A life that reflects the interconnectedness of all things and seeks to alleviate suffering wherever it is found. In conclusion, Einstein and the Buddha may have approached the world from different perspectives, one through the lens of science and the other through spirituality, but their paths intersect in their shared commitment to understanding the nature of reality. Both understood that true knowledge is not simply about accumulating facts, but about seeing the world in a new way, free from the illusions that cloud our perception and open to the profound mysteries that lie at the heart of existence. Through this shared commitment to truth and understanding, both Einstein's scientific discoveries and the Buddha's spiritual teachings offer us a path forward toward a deeper, more compassionate understanding of the world and our place in it. Part 2. The concept of interconnection, relativity, and interdependence, a unified universe. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity forever changed the way we view the universe. Prior to Einstein, space and time were considered separate, distinct entities. However, through his groundbreaking work, he revealed that time and space are not independent of one another. Instead, they are deeply interwoven, forming a single fabric known as space-time. The movement of objects within this fabric causes ripples that can warp time and space themselves, illustrating how all aspects of the universe are interconnected. Einstein's insight not only redefined the foundations of physics, but also suggested a profound unity in the cosmos that mirrors the interconnected nature of life. What makes Einstein's theory even more fascinating is the fact that it applies to everything from the behavior of light and the orbits of planets to the way gravity affects time. The theory of relativity tells us that space and time are malleable, shaped by the objects and energy within them. This interconnectedness means that no single event in the universe is ever isolated. Everything influences everything else. Just as the curvature of space-time is impacted by mass and energy, the interactions between living beings and the environment ripple through the fabric of existence, affecting the whole. Interestingly, this concept of interconnectedness finds a striking parallel in Buddhist philosophy. Buddhism teaches that all things are interconnected through the principle of pratityamupada, or dependent origination. According to the Buddha, nothing exists independently. Everything arises because of multiple causes and conditions. This doctrine emphasizes that nothing in the universe has a fixed or inherent nature, but is always dependent on other factors for its existence. The interconnectedness described by the Buddha applies not only to the material world, but to the mental, emotional, and spiritual realms as well. All phenomena are interdependent, be they physical, mental, or spiritual, and one cannot exist without the other. This view of interdependence in Buddhism mirrors Einstein's idea that space, time, energy, and matter are all part of a larger, unified system that cannot be understood in isolation. In the natural world, the concept of interconnection is most visible in the ecosystems around us. A single event, like a change in the environment, can ripple through the entire ecosystem, affecting everything from the smallest microorganisms to the largest predators. Similarly, the Buddhist teachings suggest that every action, no matter how small, has consequences that extend far beyond its immediate context. In our human experience, this interconnection plays out in the relationships we have with others. Our actions, our thoughts, and our emotions ripple out into the world, shaping the experiences and lives of those around us, often in ways we don't fully realize. Just as the theory of relativity describes the physical universe's interdependence, Buddhism teaches us that our actions and our lives are inextricably linked to the greater whole of humanity and the world. Einstein's perspective on morality, beyond fear and punishment, Einstein's scientific mind was not confined to the realm of physics. He often explored the implications of his discoveries on human behavior, morality, and ethics. One of his most profound insights was his belief that morality should not be rooted in fear of divine punishment or the desire for eternal reward, but in compassion and social responsibility. Einstein's view was that the moral compass guiding our actions should be based on a rational understanding of the world and a genuine concern for the well-being of others. For him, morality was not a set of arbitrary rules imposed by a higher power, but a practical guide to living harmoniously in the interconnected world. Einstein's moral philosophy rejected the notion that fear of divine retribution was a suitable foundation for ethical behavior. Instead, he proposed that true morality comes from a deep understanding of the interrelatedness of all people and all things. He emphasized compassion as the driving force behind ethical action, asserting that human beings must take responsibility for the collective welfare of society and the planet. This approach to morality aligns closely with the teachings of Buddhism, which holds compassion, karuna, as one of its central tenets. In Buddhism, compassion is not merely an emotion or a feeling, but a guiding principle for action. The Buddha taught that compassion must extend not just to loved ones or those within our immediate circle, but to all living beings, regardless of their background, appearance, or status. Compassion is the antidote to suffering. It is the recognition of the pain in others and the desire to relieve it. The Buddha's approach to morality emphasizes the interconnection between all beings. Just as Einstein's ethics highlight the importance of understanding our place in the greater web of life, Einstein saw morality as a responsibility that transcends religious dogma. His views on ethics reflected a deep respect for the dignity of all individuals, recognizing that the well-being of one is tied to the well-being of all. This perspective echoes the Buddhist understanding that our happiness is not isolated from the happiness of others. In Buddhism, the practice of karuna is not about feeling pity or sorrow for others, but is about recognizing their inherent suffering and actively working to alleviate it. This selfless desire to help others stems from an understanding that the suffering of one is the suffering of all, whether in the physical realm or the mental and emotional realms. Einstein famously said, "A human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness." This quote encapsulates Einstein's belief that our sense of separateness is an illusion. The Buddha, too, spoke of the illusion of the self, teaching that attachment to the ego and the belief in a permanent, unchanging self are the root causes of suffering. Both Einstein and the Buddha understood that the perceived separateness of individuals is a mental construct, and true wisdom and moral action arise from recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. Einstein's moral philosophy rejected blind obedience to religious or societal rules. Instead, he argued that ethics should come from a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life and the responsibility we have to one another. In this, he aligned closely with the Buddha's teachings on compassion, which urge us to act selflessly for the benefit of all beings. Both Einstein and the Buddha emphasized that morality is not just about following rules, but about cultivating compassion and wisdom in our interactions with others. The interconnection of mind and matter, a unified view of existence. Both Einstein and the Buddha were profoundly concerned with the nature of reality, though they approached it from different angles. Einstein's theories of relativity revealed a universe that is interconnected and dynamic, where the fabric of space and time is shaped by mass and energy. The Buddhist teachings similarly emphasize the interconnectedness of all phenomena, but in the context of the mind and its experiences. For the Buddha, the mind is the origin of all suffering and all happiness, and understanding the nature of the mind is essential for breaking the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The Buddhist teachings on the mind echo Einstein's insights into the interconnectedness of the universe. Just as space and time are intertwined, the mind and its experiences are deeply interconnected. Our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions shape our experiences of the world, and in turn, the world around us shapes our mental state. The mind is not an isolated entity, but is a part of a larger system of interconnected phenomena. This understanding of the mind's interconnection with the world mirrors Einstein's view that the physical universe is not composed of isolated entities, but of interconnected systems that influence one another. Einstein's view of the universe as a unified whole can be applied to the human experience as well. Just as the laws of physics govern the interactions of matter and energy, the laws of the mind govern the interactions of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness and meditation offer practical tools for understanding and transforming the mind, just as Einstein's theories provide a framework for understanding the physical world. Both perspectives emphasize that true understanding comes not from seeing things in isolation, but from recognizing the connections between all aspects of existence. The moral implications of interconnection. Einstein's view of morality was deeply influenced by his understanding of interconnection. He saw that the actions of one individual could have far-reaching consequences, both for the individual and for the world at large. In this, his philosophy aligns closely with the Buddhist view of karma, which holds that every action, whether positive or negative, has consequences that ripple out into the world. Just as the interconnectedness of the physical world is governed by the laws of physics, the interconnectedness of human beings is governed by the moral laws of cause and effect. Einstein's ethics, rooted in compassion and social responsibility, call us to consider the effects of our actions on others and the world. This is not a morality based on punishment or reward, but on the recognition that we are all part of a larger whole. Similarly, the Buddhist teachings on compassion and wisdom encourage us to act with awareness of the interconnectedness of all beings. When we act with compassion, we contribute to the well-being of others and, in turn, contribute to our own happiness and liberation. In both science and spirituality, the recognition of interconnection calls us to take responsibility for our actions and to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and understanding in our daily lives. Whether through the lens of relativity or the teachings of Buddhism, we see that all things are interconnected, and our actions, thoughts, and emotions reverberate throughout the universe. By embracing this understanding, we can live more harmoniously, act more ethically, and contribute to the flourishing of all beings. Part 3. Stories of Science and Compassion. Einstein's vision of unity, breaking free from the illusion of separation. Albert Einstein was not just a groundbreaking physicist, but also a philosopher who recognized the deep interconnectedness of all things. His view of the universe extended far beyond the physical world of equations and experiments. It ventured into the realm of human consciousness, ethics, and our place in the grand cosmic system. One of Einstein's most striking observations was his statement that humanity's sense of individuality is an optical illusion of consciousness. What he meant by this was that our perception of ourselves as isolated, separate beings is not an inherent truth, but rather a construct of the mind. In reality, he believed, all people are deeply interconnected with one another and with the natural world. Einstein's reflections on the interconnectedness of life were not merely abstract musings. They had a profound impact on his approach to human relations and moral philosophy. He frequently spoke about the importance of compassion and how it transcends boundaries, be they national, religious, or cultural. For Einstein, our sense of separateness is a barrier that prevents us from fully understanding the unity of existence. This realization led him to champion peace and compassion, especially during times of global conflict and political unrest. During the rise of fascism in Europe and the tensions of World War II, Einstein became an outspoken advocate for peace, disarmament, and social justice. He understood that humanity's survival depended on the cultivation of compassion and the recognition that we are all part of a larger whole. In his letters and speeches, Einstein repeatedly emphasized the importance of extending our circle of compassion beyond those closest to us, urging people to think of all living beings as part of a shared human experience. This vision of unity aligns closely with Buddhist teachings, which assert that our attachment to the self and to the boundaries between individuals is a source of suffering. The Buddha encouraged his followers to break free from the illusion of separateness and to develop compassion for all beings. recognizing that we all share the same fundamental nature. Einstein's view of unity also has profound ethical implications. He believed that the moral actions of individuals should be grounded in an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. Our actions, he argued, are not isolated. They affect not only ourselves but also the people around us and, ultimately, the world at large. Just as the ripples of an event in the physical universe can affect distant regions of space and time, our thoughts and actions create waves that extend beyond our immediate circle. This is why Einstein, despite his intellectual achievements, advocated for humility, kindness, and compassion in the face of global challenges. He believed that our greatest responsibility as human beings was to cultivate a sense of unity and to work toward the greater good of all. The deep interconnectedness of life that Einstein described is not just a theoretical concept, but a call to action. It demands that we reconsider our assumptions about individualism and selfishness and instead focus on the well-being of the collective. This perspective resonates strongly with Buddhist principles, particularly those related to karuna, compassion, and metta, loving kindness. Both Einstein and the Buddha understood that by expanding our sense of compassion, we can transcend the limitations of the self and experience a deeper connection with the world around us. The tale of the poisoned arrow, addressing the root of suffering. The Buddhist teachings often used vivid stories and parables to convey complex ideas in an accessible way. One of the most powerful of these stories is the parable of the poisoned arrow, which illustrates the futility of getting caught up in speculative debates and metaphysical inquiries when the most pressing issue is the alleviation of suffering. In the parable, the Buddha tells of a man who is struck by a poisoned arrow. His friends and family immediately rush to help, but the man refuses treatment until he has answers to several questions. He demands to know the identity of the person who shot the arrow, whether the arrow was made of iron or steel, and what kind of bow was used. He refuses to let the physician remove the arrow until all these questions are answered. The story ends with the man's death, as his obsession with irrelevant details prevents him from addressing the immediate problem, the poison that is killing him. This parable is a poignant reminder of the dangers of becoming lost in unnecessary intellectual pursuits while neglecting the practical work of alleviating suffering. The Buddha used this story to highlight the importance of focusing on the present moment and on solving the immediate problems that we face, rather than becoming mired in philosophical speculation that does not contribute to our liberation from suffering. The poisoned arrow story has a direct parallel to Einstein's approach to scientific inquiry. Einstein was deeply pragmatic in his pursuit of knowledge, while he was, without question, one of the greatest thinkers of all time. He recognized the importance of focusing on questions that had real-world implications for human well-being. His contributions to physics were not abstract exercises in intellectualism, but were aimed at understanding the laws of nature that govern everything from the motion of planets to the energy that powers the universe. In this way, Einstein's scientific mindset echoed the Buddha's emphasis on addressing immediate suffering rather than getting bogged down in unnecessary or abstract debates. For Einstein, the scientific method was a tool for understanding the world in a way that could benefit humanity. Just as the Buddha taught that we should focus on practical solutions to suffering, Einstein advocated for science to be used as a means of improving the human condition. He believed that the ultimate goal of scientific progress should not be the accumulation of knowledge for its own sake, but the alleviation of human suffering. This belief is reflected in his lifelong commitment to peace, social justice, and the ethical use of technology. Einstein's view that science should serve humanity's greater good aligns with the Buddha's approach to morality. Both understood that intellectual pursuits and philosophical debates are important, but only when they are directly linked to the alleviation of suffering. The Buddha's rejection of metaphysical speculation is not a denial of the value of inquiry, but a recognition that our most urgent work is to address the suffering that exists in the world and to find practical paths toward liberation. In the same vein, Einstein's scientific work, while grounded in rigorous intellectual analysis, was ultimately motivated by a desire to improve the human condition and to build a better, more peaceful world. This approach, which both Einstein and the Buddha exemplified, encourages us to focus our energies on what truly matters, on the immediate issues that affect our lives and the lives of others, whether in science or in spirituality. The true purpose of our inquiry should be to reduce suffering, to promote compassion, and to deepen our understanding of the world and ourselves. The shared moral vision, compassion for all beings. Einstein's vision of morality, rooted in compassion and social responsibility, aligns closely with the Buddhist teachings on ethics. Both figures saw compassion as the central moral virtue, the key to understanding and addressing the suffering that permeates existence. For Einstein, compassion was not a vague or sentimental feeling but a guiding principle that required action. He believed that human beings must act responsibly, not out of fear of punishment or desire for reward, but because we are all interconnected and our actions affect others. This view of compassion as an active, engaged force is central to Buddhism as well. In the Buddhist tradition, compassion is not just an emotional response to others' pain, but a deep and unwavering commitment to alleviating that pain through thoughtful action. The Buddhist teachings on compassion are grounded in the understanding that suffering arises from ignorance, attachment, and delusion. By cultivating compassion and wisdom, we can break free from these chains and begin to heal not only ourselves but also the world around us. Einstein's call for a moral code grounded in compassion and social responsibility reflects the same emphasis on interconnection that the Buddhist teachings espouse. Both saw compassion as the antidote to the suffering caused by ignorance and selfishness. By expanding our circle of compassion, we move beyond the confines of the self and into a broader, more inclusive understanding of humanity. This is the essence of both Einstein's ethical philosophy and the Buddhist teachings, the recognition that our well-being is intimately connected with the well-being of others. Einstein's life and work exemplified this moral vision. He used his platform to advocate for peace, social justice, and the abolition of war, emphasizing that human beings must act with kindness and empathy toward all living beings. Similarly, the Buddha's path to enlightenment was based on the cultivation of compassion for all beings, regardless of their background, race, or social status. Both Einstein and the Buddha understood that the greatest moral challenge we face as humans is not to adhere to a set of external rules, but to cultivate an internal transformation, one that leads to a profound compassion that embraces the whole of humanity. In conclusion, both Einstein and the Buddha saw the interconnectedness of all things as the foundation of their moral philosophies, whether in the realm of science or in the realm of spiritual practice. Both figures understood that compassion and unity are essential for the well-being of the individual and the collective. By expanding our circle of compassion and focusing on the immediate alleviation of suffering, we can break free from the illusion of separation and begin to build a more harmonious, just, and compassionate world. Part 4. The Middle Way. Avoiding extremes, the balance of thought and action. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is the concept of the middle way, a path that avoids the extremes of indulgence and asceticism, materialism and nihilism. This principle is grounded in the understanding that the most sustainable and peaceful way to live is through balance, not swinging too far toward excess or deprivation. The Buddha taught that by navigating the middle path, we can avoid the harmful consequences of extremes and find true happiness and enlightenment. Interestingly, this principle resonates with the thinking of Albert Einstein, who, while known for his contributions to science, was also deeply philosophical in his approach to life. Einstein, despite his immense intellectual achievements, often spoke of the limitations of human understanding. He recognized that, no matter how advanced human knowledge became, there would always be mysteries that eluded us. He spoke of the need for humility in the face of the vastness of the universe. Einstein's awareness of the limits of human perception and understanding mirrors the Buddhist teachings, which emphasize that ultimate truth cannot be grasped through extreme viewpoints or rigid dogmas. The Buddha saw both eternalism, the belief that things are fixed and unchanging, and nihilism, the belief that nothing has meaning or existence, as two extremes that lead to suffering. Instead, the Buddha proposed a path of understanding, insight, and moderation. Einstein's life and work exemplified this same balanced thinking. He didn't view scientific discovery as an endpoint or final truth, but rather as an ongoing process of exploration and questioning. Even as he made some of the most important contributions to science, he continued to question and refine his ideas. He was not rigid in his beliefs, and he cautioned against adopting any worldview that was inflexible or extreme. His approach was one of openness and adaptability, reflecting a deep respect for the complexity and uncertainty of the universe. Similarly, the Buddha's middle way avoids extremes by encouraging a balanced approach to life. The Buddha was a prince who had lived in luxury and opulence, but he later chose a path of self-denial, living as an ascetic. After years of extreme deprivation, the Buddha realized that neither indulgence nor asceticism led to true peace or enlightenment. Instead, he discovered a path of moderation, where one could live with awareness, mindfulness, and compassion, free from the extremes of both worldly excess and harsh self-punishment. This balanced thinking and embracing of moderation is not just an ancient teaching but remains highly relevant today. In modern society, we are bombarded by extremes in nearly every facet of life. Extreme consumerism, political polarization, extreme health and fitness trends, and even extreme ideologies. Einstein's humility and the Buddha's middle way offer us a timeless solution to these extremes. They remind us that true wisdom lies not in rigidly adhering to one extreme view or another, but in recognizing the complexity of life and finding a balanced, thoughtful approach to every situation. Modern applications, mindfulness and meditation in the modern world. In the context of modern life, the teachings of the middle way have profound applications, particularly through practices like mindfulness and meditation. These practices, which are central to Buddhist philosophy, have gained widespread recognition in recent years for their ability to enhance psychological well-being and emotional resilience. The rise of mindfulness-based therapies, like mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT, has shown that Buddhist practices are not just spiritually beneficial, but can also significantly improve mental health. Mindfulness, as a practice, encourages us to be present in the moment, to observe our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment, and to cultivate an awareness that is free from the distractions and extremes of daily life. In many ways, mindfulness mirrors Einstein's approach to scientific inquiry. Both emphasize the importance of focused, clear observation, and both seek to explore and understand the present moment without jumping to conclusions or forcing an outcome. Just as Einstein approached his research with a willingness to adapt and adjust based on new findings, mindfulness encourages us to approach each moment with openness and curiosity, without preconceived ideas or judgments. The psychological benefits of mindfulness are widely recognized. Studies have shown that regular mindfulness practice can reduce stress, anxiety, and depression, while also improving attention, focus, and overall mental clarity. These benefits stem from the practice's ability to help us detach from the cycle of overthinking, worry, and rumination, the very patterns of mental extremes that the Buddha sought to address. By training our minds to be present and aware, mindfulness helps us avoid the extremes of emotional reactivity, obsessive thinking, and mental fragmentation that are so common in modern life. In meditation, particularly, we find a deep and transformative application of the middle way. Meditation allows us to quiet the mind, reflect on our inner thoughts and feelings, and gain insight into the patterns of our consciousness. It helps us cultivate equanimity, the ability to remain calm and balanced regardless of external circumstances. This practice of equanimity mirrors Einstein's scientific mindset, where he sought to stay grounded and focused even in the face of uncertainty and complexity. For Einstein, science was not about certainty or finality. It was about exploring the unknown with a sense of curiosity and humility. Similarly, meditation teaches us to approach our thoughts and emotions not with judgment or attachment, but with awareness and acceptance, allowing us to cultivate a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. In a world that constantly demands more from us, whether through work, social media, or the ever-present pressure to succeed, mindfulness, and meditation offer a much-needed antidote to the extreme pace of modern life. These practices teach us to slow down, to reconnect with our inner selves, and to find peace amidst the noise. They remind us that true well-being comes not from achieving more or accumulating things, but from cultivating a deeper understanding of our inner lives and learning to live with balance, clarity, and compassion. The rise of mindfulness in modern psychology is a testament to the relevance of Buddhist teachings in today's world. It shows that ancient wisdom has profound applications in contemporary life, offering a framework for dealing with the stresses, anxieties, and challenges that we face every day. In this sense, the Buddha's middle way and Einstein's scientific mindset are not just relics of the past. They are living, breathing practices that can guide us toward a more peaceful and meaningful existence. The middle way in the context of modern challenges. In addition to the personal benefits of mindfulness and meditation, the principles of the middle way offer profound solutions to the broader challenges that we face as a society. In today's world, we are confronted with many extremes: extreme wealth and poverty, extreme political polarization, extreme consumerism, and so on. These extremes create a world of division, conflict, and suffering. The teachings of the Buddha and the insights of Einstein offer us a way to transcend these divides and find a path of harmony and balance. Einstein, with his emphasis on unity and interconnectedness, urged humanity to think beyond narrow self-interest and to consider the greater good. His work in physics showed that the universe is a complex, interconnected system, and his moral philosophy encouraged us to recognize that our individual well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others. The same idea is reflected in the Buddhist teachings, where compassion and the recognition of our interdependence are central to ethical living. The middle way asks us to transcend the extremes of selfishness and self-denial, to find a path that benefits all beings, and to live with a sense of collective responsibility. In modern times, this can be seen in the growing movement towards sustainability and social justice. The extreme consumerism and exploitation of resources that characterize much of modern life have created imbalances that threaten the health of the planet and the well-being of future generations. The middle way encourages us to find a more balanced approach to consumption, one that recognizes our interconnectedness with the environment and with each other, rather than seeking endless growth and accumulation. The middle way invites us to focus on what truly matters, on cultivating compassion, wisdom, and sustainability in our actions. The same principles can be applied to the political and social divisions that plague modern society. In an age of extreme polarization, where people are often defined by their political affiliations and ideologies, the middle way calls for a more balanced, compassionate approach to conflict, rather than adhering rigidly to one viewpoint or another. The Buddhist teachings encourage us to seek understanding, to listen with empathy, and to find common ground. Einstein's own efforts to promote peace and diplomacy, especially during times of global conflict, reflect the same commitment to balance and harmony. In both our personal and collective lives, the teachings of the middle way provide a valuable framework for navigating the complexities of modern existence. They remind us that balance is not about avoiding challenges or discomfort, but about facing them with wisdom and compassion. By embracing the middle way, we can create a more peaceful, just, and harmonious world, one that is grounded in the recognition that all things are interconnected and that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate concerns. In conclusion, the middle way, as both a spiritual practice and a philosophical mindset, offers profound insights for navigating the challenges of modern life. Whether in the context of personal well-being or social responsibility, the teachings of the Buddha and the insights of Einstein remind us that true peace and understanding come from balance, humility, and compassion. By applying the principles of the middle way in our daily lives, we can cultivate inner peace, contribute to a more harmonious world, and live in a way that reflects the interconnectedness of all things. Part 5. Lessons for the Future. A shared vision of progress, bridging science and spirituality. Albert Einstein and the Buddha, despite being separated by centuries, shared a vision for the future of humanity, one where progress is measured not only by technological advancements but also by the cultivation of wisdom, compassion, and ethical growth. While their approaches to achieving this vision were different, their ultimate goal was remarkably similar: to liberate humanity from ignorance and suffering, and to guide it toward a more enlightened existence. Einstein's contributions to science, particularly his theories of relativity and quantum mechanics, radically transformed our understanding of the universe. He believed that knowledge, scientific understanding, had the power to unlock the mysteries of the cosmos and improve the human condition. His work, grounded in observation, experimentation, and reason, revealed the interconnectedness of space, time, energy, and matter. It was this vision of a unified universe that inspired Einstein to believe in the potential for humanity to advance by harnessing the power of knowledge and technology. However, Einstein was not blind to the potential dangers of scientific progress. He recognized that, without ethical grounding, technological advancements could lead to destruction rather than enlightenment. His later years were marked by an increasing focus on the moral responsibilities that came with scientific discovery, especially in light of the atomic bomb and its implications. Einstein saw the need to balance scientific innovation with a deep respect for humanity and the environment. It was this combination of intellectual curiosity and moral responsibility that defined his vision for the future. The Buddha, on the other hand, sought to liberate humanity through spiritual awakening. His teachings were designed to help individuals understand the nature of suffering and its causes, and to provide a path toward enlightenment and freedom from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The Buddha's approach was inward, encouraging personal transformation through mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living. By developing wisdom and compassion, the Buddha believed that individuals could overcome the ignorance and attachment that caused suffering, and in doing so, contribute to the well-being of all sentient beings. Despite the differences in their approaches, Einstein focusing on intellectual and technological progress, and the Buddha on spiritual awakening, both shared a belief in the immense potential of human understanding. Einstein's faith in reason and scientific inquiry, and the Buddha's emphasis on wisdom and compassion, were both rooted in the conviction that humanity could evolve beyond its limitations. They believed that by deepening our understanding of the world, whether through science or spirituality, we could ultimately overcome the suffering and ignorance that plague us. In the modern world, this shared vision for progress has profound implications. We live in an age of rapid technological advancements, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, space exploration, and more. These innovations have the potential to radically improve human life, solving problems like disease, poverty, and environmental degradation. However, as Einstein warned, these advancements come with great responsibility. Without the ethical frameworks to guide their use, they could just as easily lead to harm. Similarly, as we grow in knowledge and power, we must also grow in wisdom, compassion, and ethical understanding. The vision Einstein and the Buddha shared urges us to look beyond mere technological achievement and toward the greater good of all humanity. True progress is not just about what we can do, but about how we do it and for whom. Compassionate science, integrating ethics with innovation. Einstein's view of science was deeply intertwined with a sense of awe and wonder. He often spoke about the beauty of the universe and the profound mysteries that scientific inquiry seeks to understand. To Einstein, science was not just a means to control or manipulate the world, but a pursuit of the deepest truths of existence. In his own words, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. For him, the mysteries of the universe were not just subjects for intellectual curiosity, they were sources of profound reverence, deserving of both scientific inquiry and spiritual respect. This view of science as a pursuit of awe and wonder is strikingly similar to the Buddhist reverence for the interconnectedness of all life. Buddhism teaches that the universe is an intricate web of causes and conditions, and that everything in existence is interdependent. From the smallest insect to the vastness of the cosmos, everything is connected, and this interconnectedness is to be revered and respected. The Buddhist teachings encourage us to recognize the sacredness in all things and to approach life with mindfulness, humility, and compassion. In the modern world, where technological advancements are often driven by the desire for profit or power, Einstein's view of science as a quest for beauty and truth provides a refreshing perspective. If we approach scientific progress with a sense of awe and wonder, recognizing the inherent value of the universe and all living beings, we are more likely to prioritize the well-being of humanity and the planet. This mindset also aligns with the Buddhist idea of karuna, compassion, which encourages us to act selflessly for the benefit of all beings. In this way, science can become a tool not only for understanding the world, but for making it a better place for everyone. Compassionate science is not a new concept, but it is one that is increasingly gaining traction in fields like environmental science, medicine, and social innovation. Today, we are witnessing a growing movement toward ethical science in areas such as climate change, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence. Researchers and innovators are not just asking what is possible, but also what is right. How can we ensure that technological advancements are used for the benefit of all people, and not just the privileged few? How can we develop new technologies in ways that protect the environment and promote sustainability? These are questions that reflect a shift toward compassionate science, a science that is grounded in ethical considerations and guided by compassion for all living beings. One example of compassionate science in action is the growing field of environmental sustainability. Scientists and activists are increasingly focused on finding solutions to the climate crisis, solutions that not only address the immediate problems of pollution and resource depletion, but also promote long-term environmental health and justice. This approach to science recognizes that the well-being of the planet and the well-being of humanity are deeply interconnected, and that the harm we do to the earth ultimately harms us all. The principles of sustainability and environmental justice reflect the Buddhist understanding of interdependence. Our actions, whether for good or ill, have far-reaching consequences for the world around us. In medicine, too, we see a movement toward compassionate science. The rise of integrative medicine, which combines traditional medical practices with alternative therapies, reflects a holistic view of health and healing. This approach recognizes that the body, mind, and spirit are interconnected, and that true health comes from a balance of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Compassionate science in medicine also extends to the way healthcare systems are structured, ensuring that healthcare is accessible to all, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, or background. The growing field of social innovation also exemplifies compassionate science in action. Social entrepreneurs and innovators are working to address global challenges like poverty, inequality, and access to education. Their solutions are grounded not only in technological innovation, but also in a deep commitment to social justice and human dignity. This approach to innovation reflects the Buddhist teaching that the alleviation of suffering should be our highest priority, whether that suffering is caused by material deprivation, mental distress, or social inequality. As we continue to advance in our scientific and technological capabilities, it is crucial that we do so with a spirit of compassion and ethical responsibility. Einstein's vision of science as a pursuit of awe and wonder, combined with the Buddha's emphasis on compassion and interdependence, provides a powerful framework for navigating the challenges of the future. Compassionate science is not just about creating new technologies or solving problems. It is about doing so in a way that recognizes the intrinsic value of all life and ensures that our progress benefits everyone. The future of humanity, wisdom, compassion, and innovation. The lessons of Einstein and the Buddha provide a roadmap for the future of humanity. As we face unprecedented challenges, climate change, technological disruptions, social inequality, and global health crises, the need for both scientific innovation and ethical guidance has never been greater. The future will be shaped not only by our intellectual achievements, but by how we use those achievements to promote the well-being of all people, animals, and the planet. Einstein's belief in the potential of human understanding and technological progress offers hope for the future. However, he also recognized that knowledge without compassion could lead to harm. Similarly, The Buddhist teachings remind us that spiritual awakening and wisdom are essential for overcoming the ignorance and attachment that cause suffering. Both figures understood that the path to a better future lies in the integration of knowledge and compassion, in creating a world where science and spirituality work hand in hand to alleviate suffering and promote the flourishing of all beings. As we look toward the future, it is clear that the challenges we face will require a new kind of thinking, a thinking that integrates the best of scientific innovation with the wisdom of ancient teachings. By embracing both Einstein's vision of progress and the Buddha's path of compassion, we can create a future that is not only technologically advanced but also ethically grounded and spiritually enlightened. In the end, true progress is not just about advancing knowledge or building new technologies. It is about using that knowledge to create a world that is more compassionate, just, and harmonious. Einstein and the Buddha both believed that humanity had the potential to overcome its limitations and achieve greatness. Their shared vision for the future encourages us to pursue not only scientific innovation but also ethical growth, ensuring that the progress we make serves the greater good of all living beings. Part 6. The Nature of the Mind. Science and Buddhism's Shared Inquiry. Einstein's View of the Mind. A humble acknowledgement of our limits. Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds in history, was not only known for his groundbreaking work in physics, but also for his philosophical reflections on the nature of human knowledge and understanding. Despite his immense intellect, Einstein frequently expressed an awareness of the limits of human comprehension. He often spoke about the inability of the human mind to fully grasp the vastness of the universe. In his view, the mind, despite its remarkable capacity for reasoning, logic, and discovery, is ultimately bound by its own limitations. The mysteries of the universe, particularly at the deepest levels of reality, may always elude us. Einstein's thoughts on the mind are most clearly reflected in his acknowledgement that the laws of the universe, though discoverable, are inherently mysterious and transcend the capacity of human perception. This admission is not a defeatist stance but a recognition of the humbling reality that our understanding is shaped by our finite human experience. Einstein's genius lay not only in his intellectual achievements but also in his ability to confront the boundaries of knowledge with humility. He understood that, for all of humanity's scientific advancements, we are still subject to the limitations of perception and the finite capacity of the human mind. This recognition of the mind's limitations has a profound connection to Buddhist teachings, which also emphasize the imperfection of human perception. The Buddha, in his teachings on the nature of the mind, acknowledged that our minds are often clouded by illusion, attachment, and desire. He taught that the mind, while capable of great insight and understanding, is also the source of much of our suffering. Through meditation and mindfulness, the Buddha encouraged individuals to observe and understand their minds, recognizing that the mind's tendencies can lead to distorted perceptions of reality. Like Einstein, the Buddha recognized that the mind plays a pivotal role in shaping our experience of the world. However, while Einstein approached the mind from the perspective of scientific inquiry and intellectual rigor, the Buddha viewed the mind as a tool for spiritual awakening, one that could be trained to transcend its ordinary limitations and move toward enlightenment. Both figures understood that the way we perceive the world is not necessarily an accurate reflection of reality, but rather a product of our mental conditioning and biases. Einstein's intellectual humility, paired with the Buddha's spiritual wisdom, both point to a shared truth: that true understanding requires us to recognize the limitations of our perceptions and to approach the mysteries of life with an open mind, whether through the exploration of the universe or through the deepening of self-awareness. Both Einstein and the Buddha taught that mastery of the mind is essential to unlocking a deeper understanding of the world around us. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, purifying the mind, the concept of mindfulness, central to Buddhist practice, offers a profound connection to Einstein's notion of intellectual humility. Mindfulness, in the Buddhist tradition, involves paying close attention to the present moment with a sense of openness and awareness. It encourages an observant, non-judgmental stance toward our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Through mindfulness, The individual is able to observe the fleeting nature of mental and emotional states, noticing how they arise, persist, and pass away, without becoming attached to or influenced by them. This practice of mindfulness is similar to Einstein's approach to intellectual discovery. In his work, Einstein would approach problems with an open mind, free from preconceived notions or biases. He would engage in a process of observation, calculation, and revision, never fully convinced of the answers, but constantly in pursuit of deeper understanding. For Einstein, the process of discovery was not about finding final answers, but about uncovering new questions, constantly refining the theory to better align with the realities of the universe. In Buddhism, mindfulness is a means of transcending ordinary perception, allowing individuals to see beyond the veil of illusion that clouds their minds. Just as Einstein approached the study of the universe with a sense of awe and curiosity, mindfulness encourages a similar sense of reverence for the present moment. Mindfulness allows individuals to detach from the constant stream of mental chatter and emotional reactivity, enabling them to observe their thoughts and experiences from a more objective and clear perspective. This practice of awareness, which trains the mind to remain open and receptive, is crucial for both scientific inquiry and spiritual growth. The Buddhist teachings on mindfulness provide a direct path to understanding the nature of the mind and the world. Through mindfulness, we can identify the mental patterns that distort our perception of reality and learn to cultivate a more balanced and clear way of seeing. Similarly, in scientific inquiry, mindfulness encourages scientists to approach their work with openness, recognizing that their understanding of the world is always evolving. Both mindfulness and scientific inquiry require a mindset that is free from attachment and preconceptions, allowing for a deeper exploration of the unknown. Einstein's intellectual humility and the Buddha's emphasis on mindfulness both call us to a process of continual self-examination. They remind us that true wisdom comes not from certainty or rigid belief, but from the willingness to question, observe, and be open to new insights, whether in science or spirituality. The aim is to purify the mind, to rid it of the biases, attachments, and illusions that cloud our perception and prevent us from seeing the world as it truly is. Science and the mind, a path to true knowledge. Einstein's belief in the pursuit of true knowledge was rooted in both intellectual rigor and a sense of awe. His scientific endeavors were not merely about proving theories or solving equations, but about seeking a deeper understanding of the universe and its mysteries. For Einstein, true knowledge required more than just facts and figures. It involved a profound respect for the unknown and the mysteries that lay beyond the grasp of human understanding. This sense of wonder is what drove Einstein to explore the cosmos, to question established theories, and to find new ways of interpreting the laws of nature. The Buddhist path to enlightenment shares a similar reverence for the mysteries of existence. The Buddha encouraged his followers to develop wisdom through direct experience, to cultivate an understanding of the nature of suffering, and to follow the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. The Buddha's teachings on mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living all point to the fact that true knowledge is not something that can be acquired through intellectual pursuit alone. It requires a deep inner understanding that transcends the limitations of the ordinary mind. Einstein and the Buddha, in their respective fields, both emphasize the importance of intellectual humility and the pursuit of true knowledge through an open and inquisitive mind. For Einstein, this meant constantly seeking new insights into the nature of reality, while for the Buddha, it meant cultivating wisdom that arose from personal experience and inner awareness. Both figures understood that true knowledge is not static, but dynamic, constantly evolving as we refine our understanding of the world. Einstein's scientific work and the Buddha's spiritual teachings both point to the same conclusion: that the mind plays a crucial role in shaping our understanding of the world, whether through the scientific process or through meditation. The goal is the same: to transcend the limitations of ordinary perception and reach a higher, more profound understanding of the universe. The process of intellectual inquiry, like the practice of mindfulness, involves a continual refinement of thought, a purification of the mind, and an openness to new insights. In science, this path to true knowledge requires rigorous observation, experimentation, and analysis. Einstein's work, particularly in his development of the theory of relativity, illustrates the power of a mind that is open to new possibilities and willing to challenge existing paradigms. Similarly, in Buddhist practice, the path to wisdom involves observing the mind, questioning its assumptions, and cultivating clarity through mindfulness and meditation. Both science and spirituality require an openness to the unknown, a willingness to challenge our assumptions, and a commitment to seeking truth through disciplined inquiry. Einstein's belief that true knowledge is a blend of intellectual rigor and awe parallels the Buddhist understanding that wisdom arises through both intellectual understanding and direct experience. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not simply knowledge acquired from external sources, but an internal realization that comes from seeing things as they truly are. This kind of wisdom is cultivated through meditation and mindfulness, where individuals learn to observe their thoughts, feelings, and perceptions without attachment or judgment. Through this process, one gains a deeper understanding of the nature of reality, not through intellectual concepts, but through direct experience. Similarly, Einstein's scientific pursuit was driven by a deep sense of awe and wonder at the mysteries of the universe. He believed that science was not just about discovering facts, but about uncovering the beauty and intricacy of the cosmos. In many ways, his scientific work was a form of meditation, a way of contemplating the universe and seeking a deeper understanding of its mysteries. Just as meditation brings clarity to the mind, scientific inquiry brings clarity to our understanding of the natural world. The path to true knowledge, whether through science or spirituality, requires both intellectual effort and inner awareness. Einstein's scientific discoveries were grounded in his ability to question established ideas and look beyond the surface of things. Similarly, the Buddhist teachings encourage us to question our assumptions about the self and the world and to cultivate a deeper awareness of the mind. Both paths ultimately lead to the same goal, a profound understanding of the universe and our place within it. Through both science and meditation, we can purify the mind and gain insight into the nature of reality, whether through intellectual pursuit or spiritual practice. The goal is to transcend the limitations of ordinary perception and reach a higher understanding of the world. Both Einstein and the Buddha understood that true wisdom comes from the continual exploration of the unknown, a willingness to embrace uncertainty, and a deep respect for the mysteries that lie beyond our grasp. The path to true knowledge is not an end, but a journey, one that requires both humility and awe, both intellectual rigor and inner clarity. Part 7. The relationship between the observer and the observed. The observer effect, science and Buddhism. In the realm of modern physics, one of the most fascinating and profound insights comes from the concept known as the observer effect. This principle asserts that the act of observing a phenomenon has the power to alter its outcome. It suggests that reality, at the quantum level, is not fixed but is shaped in part by the very act of measurement or observation. This insight challenges the traditional view of a completely objective reality, where phenomena exist independently of the observer. Instead, the observer, their perception, and their interaction with the world play an integral role in shaping the events and experiences that unfold. This idea, though grounded in physics, mirrors concepts found in Buddhist philosophy, particularly in the doctrines of anatta, non-self, and pratityasamutpada, dependent origination. The Buddhist teachings suggest that our perceptions of the world are not objective truths, but rather constructions of the mind, influenced by countless factors, including our desires, aversions, and ignorance. According to Buddhism, the mind shapes and colors everything we experience, what we see, what we hear, and even what we think about. Reality, in this sense, is not a fixed, immutable entity, but something that is subject to the conditions of our consciousness. Einstein's theory of relativity provides a framework for understanding this in a more physical sense. According to relativity, an observer's position and movement influence the way they experience time and space. For example, Two people observing the same event might perceive it differently if they are moving at different speeds or are located in different positions relative to the event. This is not a flaw in the observer's perception, but a feature of how reality operates at a fundamental level. The relativity of space and time reveals that there is no absolute perspective on the universe. Each observer's experience of the universe is influenced by their unique position and movement within it. Similarly, in Buddhism, the notion of subjective perception and the role of the mind in shaping reality is central. The Buddha taught that our senses and minds are clouded by various mental formations, such as attachment, aversion, and ignorance, that distort our understanding of the world. We do not see the world as it truly is, but as we are conditioned to see it. Just as Einstein showed that the universe cannot be experienced in a single, objective way, Buddhism asserts that our perception of the world is shaped by our individual consciousness, and that consciousness is influenced by factors beyond our immediate awareness. The idea that observation can influence the outcome of a phenomenon is both a scientific and a philosophical insight. And both Einstein and the Buddha recognized this in their respective fields. Einstein's work demonstrated that the act of observing something, whether it's an atom or a distant star, can have a profound impact on the way we understand it. Buddhism, on the other hand, teaches that our minds, when clouded by illusion or attachment, actively shape our experiences, often leading us to misunderstand the nature of reality. Both views share a common understanding that reality, whether physical or mental, is not a static, unchanging entity but is shaped by the observer's perspective. The interplay of consciousness and reality. What we see is not what is. The Buddha's path to enlightenment is essentially centered around the idea that our perceptions of the world are conditioned by our consciousness. This conditioning, the Buddha taught, is the root cause of our suffering. We do not perceive the world directly. Instead, our minds filter and interpret everything through layers of previous experiences, beliefs, and desires. This process distorts our understanding of reality, leading us to cling to false ideas of permanence, self, and control. Mindfulness and wisdom are the tools the Buddha provided to transcend these conditioned perceptions and approach reality more directly. By cultivating mindfulness, individuals learn to observe their thoughts, emotions, and sensory experiences without attachment or judgment. Through this practice, the mental fog that distorts reality begins to clear, allowing a more truthful, unbiased experience of the world. The Buddha's teachings suggest that to see the world as it truly is, free from the distortions of the ego, one must first acknowledge and break through the illusions created by the mind. Einstein, though a scientist, reflected a similar view on the limits of human perception. Despite his unparalleled intellect and achievements in physics, he often spoke of the boundaries of human understanding. In his view, the universe was so vast and complex that even the sharpest minds were constrained by the limits of their perception and understanding. He recognized that human beings could never fully comprehend the mysteries of the universe, but that through continued inquiry and intellectual humility, we might edge closer to the truth. For Einstein, the pursuit of knowledge was a journey that demanded openness and a willingness to confront the unknown. The mind, he believed, should be engaged with awe and curiosity, never assuming it could grasp all that exists. The Buddha, too, advocated for an open mind, not one that clings to fixed ideas or beliefs, but one that remains flexible, receptive, and aware. Both figures understood that true wisdom arises not from certainty, but from the recognition of the mind's limitations and the willingness to explore the unknown with humility. In both science and spirituality, the goal is to transcend the limitations of ordinary perception. Whether it is the scientist seeking to understand the fundamental laws of the universe or the spiritual seeker seeking to understand the nature of existence, both paths require the practitioner to challenge preconceived notions and confront the mind's tendency to distort reality. Einstein's scientific work and the Buddha's spiritual teachings offer complementary insights into how we can push past these limitations. In both domains, the observer plays a crucial role in shaping their experience of reality. And in both, the journey involves learning to perceive the world as it truly is, free from the biases, attachments, and illusions that obscure the truth. The observer as a construct of the mind, the illusion of self. The concept of anatta, or non-self, is one of the most radical teachings of the Buddha. It asserts that the self is not a permanent, unchanging entity but a collection of constantly changing elements, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and actions that we mistakenly cling to as me or mine. The Buddha taught that the belief in a permanent self is one of the root causes of suffering because it leads to attachment, aversion, and the inability to see things as they truly are. This misunderstanding of the self perpetuates the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and it obscures our ability to see the interconnectedness of all things. Einstein's own reflections on the mind resonate with the Buddha's teachings on anatta. Though Einstein was not a Buddhist, his understanding of the mind's limitations closely mirrored the Buddhist view that the sense of self is an illusion. Einstein often remarked that the human mind is not equipped to grasp the full nature of the universe, and that our perception of ourselves as separate, isolated beings is simply an optical illusion. He recognized that we are deeply interconnected with everything around us, and that the sense of individuality that we cling to is, in fact, a mental construct, a story the mind tells itself in order to make sense of the world. Both Einstein and the Buddha recognized that the concept of self is a mental construct, and that our attachment to this construct distorts our perception of reality. The ego, or sense of individual identity, is not a solid, permanent entity, but a collection of thoughts, memories, and experiences that we identify with. This illusion of the self leads us to believe that we are separate from others, when in reality, we are all interconnected. Both Einstein and the Buddha pointed out that this misunderstanding of the self is at the root of much of our suffering, whether it be in the form of existential anxiety, the desire for control, or the attachment to things that are transient. Transcending subjectivity, the path to true understanding. The Buddhist teachings on pratitya samutpada, or dependent origination, reinforce the idea that our experience of reality is deeply subjective. According to this principle, all things arise in dependence upon other factors. Nothing exists in isolation. Our perception of the world is conditioned by countless variables, our past experiences, our desires, our fears, and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. The Buddha's path to enlightenment is about unraveling these conditioned perceptions and seeing the world as it truly is, without the filters of attachment and ego. Einstein's work in physics is similar in its attempt to unravel the true nature of reality. His theories of relativity and quantum mechanics challenge the conventional view of an objective, independent universe, revealing instead a universe that is deeply interdependent, where space, time, and matter are all interconnected, just as the Buddha taught that all phenomena arise in dependence on other factors. Einstein's work showed that the universe is not a collection of isolated objects but a unified whole, where everything is interconnected. The interplay of consciousness and reality is central to both Einstein's theories and the Buddha's teachings, whether in science or in spirituality. The goal is to transcend subjective biases and to perceive the world as it truly is. For Einstein, this meant understanding the laws of the universe not as fixed truths, but as complex relationships that are shaped by the observer's position. For the Buddha, this meant seeing beyond the illusion of the self and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. Both Einstein and the Buddha understood that the mind plays a crucial role in shaping our experience of reality, and that true wisdom arises from transcending the limitations of ordinary perception. In both science and Buddhism, the ultimate goal is the same: to reach a deeper, more profound understanding of reality by transcending the ego and the subjective filters that cloud our perception, whether through the scientific process or the spiritual path. The key is to approach the world with an open mind, free from attachment and bias, and to see things as they truly are, without the distortions of the ego or the illusions of the self. The journey toward true understanding requires humility, awareness, and the willingness to confront the limitations of our perceptions. Through this process, both Einstein and the Buddha demonstrated that the mind is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in shaping it. Part 8. Suffering and Liberation. The Science of Transformation. The Buddhist teachings on suffering, a universal truth. At the core of Buddhist philosophy lies the profound and timeless recognition of suffering, or dukkha. This recognition is captured in the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of the Buddhist teachings. The first of these truths is the acknowledgement that suffering is an inherent part of human existence. It is not an anomaly or a temporary condition, but a fundamental aspect of life. Birth, aging, sickness, and death, as well as the emotional turmoil caused by attachment, desire, and loss, are all expressions of dukkha. The Buddha did not shy away from this uncomfortable truth. Instead, he encouraged his followers to face suffering head-on and understand its root causes. What makes the Buddha's teachings revolutionary is not simply the recognition of suffering, but the recognition that suffering is something that can be transcended. The Buddha emphasized that while suffering is unavoidable in life, it does not have to define us. It is not a permanent, insurmountable force, but something that can be understood, worked with, and ultimately overcome through the right path, the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddha's insights into suffering, its origins, and its cessation form a diagnostic approach to human experience that mirrors the scientific process. Just as science begins by identifying a problem, such as a disease or a physical phenomenon, investigating its causes, and developing a method for addressing it, Buddhism begins with the recognition of suffering, delves into its causes, attachment, ignorance, desire, and offers a pathway to liberation. This diagnostic method of problem-solving, based on the identification of causes and remedies, closely parallels the scientific approach. In science, we observe the world, identify patterns, hypothesize about the causes of certain phenomena, and then experiment or study to test our hypotheses. Similarly, the Buddhist teachings about suffering reflect a deep understanding of the human condition. He did not present an abstract or philosophical understanding of suffering. Instead, he laid out a pragmatic, actionable approach to overcoming it. The suffering of the human heart, caused by attachment and ignorance, could be alleviated through a deliberate process of mental and ethical transformation. Einstein's view on suffering, a symbiotic relationship between science and ethics. While the Buddha provided a spiritual framework for understanding and transcending suffering, Albert Einstein, as one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century, offered a unique perspective on the human condition from the vantage point of science. Einstein's work in physics forever changed our understanding of the universe, but he was also deeply concerned with the moral and ethical dimensions of human life. He believed that science, though incredibly powerful in explaining the natural world, was not sufficient on its own to solve the broader issues that humanity faces, such as suffering, inequality, and injustice. Einstein understood that the advancements made in science and technology could alleviate some material causes of suffering. Diseases could be cured, physical suffering reduced, and the mysteries of the cosmos unveiled. However, he also recognized that science, while offering valuable tools, could not address the emotional, psychological, or existential suffering that plagues human beings. This suffering, rooted in human desires, fears, and ignorance, required more than just scientific solutions. For Einstein, the pursuit of knowledge must go hand in hand with the cultivation of ethics, compassion, and wisdom. Einstein often spoke about the importance of ethics in human life, particularly in the context of scientific progress. He believed that scientific discoveries could be used for both good and ill, and that it was the moral responsibility of individuals, particularly scientists, to ensure that their work served the greater good of humanity. Just as the Buddha taught that knowledge and wisdom must be accompanied by compassion, Einstein stressed that scientific knowledge without a moral framework was insufficient to address the true nature of suffering. In Einstein's view, human suffering could be alleviated through the application of reason and science, but the ultimate remedy lay in a broader, more holistic understanding of the human condition, one that included ethics, compassion, and a sense of social responsibility. Both the Buddha and Einstein understood that while science could address material suffering, The path to lasting peace and liberation required a deeper, spiritual transformation. Einstein recognized that the heart of human suffering lies in our emotions, desires, and beliefs, which cannot be solved through scientific innovation alone. The transformation of suffering, a scientific and spiritual perspective. Both Einstein and the Buddha recognized that suffering is a fundamental aspect of the human experience, but their approaches to addressing it were quite different. For Einstein, the pursuit of knowledge and understanding was the key to alleviating suffering. Through science, he believed humanity could unlock the mysteries of the universe, cure diseases, and improve the quality of life. He believed that by expanding human knowledge, we could mitigate the material causes of suffering, such as poverty, disease, and ignorance. For Einstein, science was a tool that could help lift humanity out of its struggles and elevate our collective consciousness. However, Einstein also understood that science alone could not provide the complete solution. While science could address the external, material causes of suffering, it could not address the inner turmoil caused by human emotions, desires, and ego. He recognized that the emotional and psychological aspects of suffering required a different kind of attention, one that transcended intellectual knowledge and engaged with the human heart. In this sense, Einstein's approach to suffering and its alleviation was inherently holistic, acknowledging both the material and immaterial aspects of human life. The Buddha, on the other hand, focused primarily on the internal transformation of the individual. He believed that suffering arises not from external circumstances, but from the mind's attachment to those circumstances. According to the Buddha, our suffering is a result of our desires, fears, and illusions, and these mental patterns are what keep us trapped in a cycle of suffering. Liberation, or nirvana, is not achieved through external progress or material wealth, but through the purification of the mind. The Buddha's path to liberation involves the cultivation of wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. By understanding the nature of suffering, its causes, and the path to its cessation, an individual can gradually break free from the attachments that cause suffering. The Noble Eightfold Path, which the Buddha prescribed, is a guide for living in a way that reduces suffering and leads to enlightenment. It includes practices such as right view, right intention, right speech, right action, and right mindfulness. These practices, when followed diligently, help the individual develop a clear, unbiased understanding of the nature of reality and the ability to respond to life's challenges with wisdom and compassion. For the Buddha, the ultimate transformation comes when one can see beyond the illusions of the self and the world, transcending attachment and desire. Through mindfulness and meditation, one can cultivate a deep awareness of the present moment, letting go of the mental and emotional patterns that perpetuate suffering. This process is not a passive one. It requires active engagement with the mind, recognizing its tendencies and gradually transforming them. The Buddhist teachings provide a roadmap for this internal transformation, which ultimately leads to liberation from suffering. Both Einstein and the Buddha sought solutions to the human predicament, but their methods were different. Einstein's solution focused on intellectual exploration and the application of scientific knowledge to improve the material world. He believed that the pursuit of knowledge could lead to the liberation of humanity from ignorance and suffering, as science provided the means to understand and address the challenges of existence. On the other hand, the Buddha's approach was internal, focused on freeing the mind from the mental patterns that cause suffering. He taught that the path to liberation lay in understanding the nature of the mind and its attachments, and that true freedom could only be found through spiritual awakening. Despite their different approaches, both Einstein and the Buddha agreed that the alleviation of suffering requires deep understanding. For Einstein, understanding came through the exploration of the physical universe, discovery, reasoning, and scientific inquiry. For the Buddha, understanding came through introspection, mindfulness, and wisdom. Both recognized that human suffering is complex and multifaceted, and that it requires a nuanced approach to alleviate. Einstein's scientific approach and the Buddha's spiritual path, while distinct, share the same ultimate goal: the alleviation of suffering and the liberation of the human spirit. The path forward: integration of science and spirituality. While Einstein and the Buddha offered different paths to alleviating suffering, their insights are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they complement each other. Einstein's work provides a framework for understanding the material world, offering solutions to the external causes of suffering. The Buddha's teachings, on the other hand, offer a path to addressing the internal causes of suffering, focusing on the mind and emotions. Together, these two approaches provide a holistic understanding of the human predicament. In today's world, we face numerous challenges that require both scientific and spiritual solutions. Global issues such as climate change, poverty, inequality, and mental health crises are deeply interconnected, and they cannot be solved by science or spirituality alone. We need an integrated approach, one that combines scientific innovation with spiritual wisdom. Einstein's vision of using science to improve the human condition, combined with the Buddha's teachings on transforming the mind, offers a powerful framework for addressing these challenges. As we continue to advance in science and technology, it is essential that we also cultivate the inner wisdom and compassion necessary to use these tools responsibly. Science can help us understand the world and provide solutions to material problems, but it is the wisdom of the Buddha that can help us navigate the ethical and emotional complexities of existence. Together, science and spirituality offer a complete path to liberation, one that addresses both the external and internal causes of suffering, leading to a more harmonious and compassionate world. In conclusion, both Einstein and the Buddha sought the alleviation of human suffering. Though their approaches differed, Einstein's path was through the pursuit of knowledge and scientific progress, while the Buddha's path was through spiritual awakening and mental transformation. However, both understood that the ultimate goal was the same: the cessation of suffering and the liberation of humanity. Their teachings, when viewed together, offer a powerful blueprint for addressing the complex challenges of the human condition, and for creating a future where both material and spiritual well-being are in harmony. Part 9. Ethics and the Future of Humanity. Einstein's moral philosophy, a vision rooted in compassion. Albert Einstein is often celebrated for his revolutionary contributions to science, but his moral philosophy also deserves significant attention. His reflections on morality were deeply intertwined with compassion, social responsibility, and a broad understanding of human interconnectedness. Unlike many traditional ethical systems that are based on fear of punishment or the hope for divine rewards, Einstein's view of morality was rooted in the understanding that our actions should be guided by the recognition of the interconnectedness of all beings. Einstein believed that ethical behavior should not be motivated by a fear of divine retribution or the desire for personal gain, but rather by a deep sense of responsibility toward others and the planet. In his view, morality was about recognizing the shared experience of suffering and joy among all living beings and acting in a way that promotes the common good. This perspective aligns closely with the Buddhist concept of karuna, compassion, and metta, loving kindness. Both Einstein and Buddhism emphasize the importance of selfless action, with compassion as a guiding principle for ethical conduct. For Einstein, morality was not about adhering to rigid religious dogma, but about cultivating empathy and understanding for others. He understood that to alleviate suffering in the world, individuals must see beyond their own limited perspectives and recognize the deep connections they share with others, especially those who are different from themselves. This is a direct echo of Buddhist teachings, which call on practitioners to act with love, care, and respect for all living beings, without distinction. Einstein's moral vision was one that sought to transcend national, cultural, and religious boundaries, focusing instead on the common humanity that unites us all. Einstein's understanding of morality was also shaped by his belief in human dignity and the need for ethical leadership, especially in times of great conflict and crisis. His call for a compassionate approach to science, politics, and society reflected a broader ethical framework that sought to balance the potential benefits of human knowledge with the moral responsibility to prevent harm. This vision of morality was not abstract or idealistic, but was deeply practical, aiming to improve the material and spiritual conditions of life for all people. regardless of their background or status. Buddhism and the future of human ethics. Compassion as a global imperative. As the world faces an array of moral challenges, from inequality and poverty to environmental degradation and social conflict, Buddhism offers a powerful framework for addressing these issues. At the heart of Buddhist ethics is the understanding that all beings are interconnected, and that the alleviation of suffering for one is the alleviation of suffering for all. This principle is profoundly relevant in the modern world, where the actions of one nation or group can have far-reaching consequences for others. Buddhism teaches that ethical conduct is not merely a personal matter but a communal one. The suffering of individuals is always tied to the suffering of others, and the alleviation of suffering requires collective action and compassion. In the context of global challenges, this ethical framework calls on individuals, communities, and nations to adopt a compassionate approach toward all living beings, human, animal, and the environment. The Buddhist teachings emphasize that a truly moral society is one where compassion and wisdom guide the actions of individuals and institutions. Einstein shared a similar view of the world's moral challenges. His belief in the interconnectedness of all beings led him to advocate for social responsibility and compassion as essential elements of ethical behavior. Einstein's vision for the future was one where humanity transcended the limitations of selfishness and nationalistic pride, working together to address the common challenges we all face. Like the Buddha, Einstein believed that to create a better world, we must act with empathy, understanding, and a deep commitment to the well-being of others. In today's world, where inequality, climate change, and political conflict threaten global stability, the teachings of both Einstein and the Buddha provide valuable guidance. Both believe that humanity's future depends on our ability to cultivate ethics rooted in compassion, social responsibility, and a shared sense of humanity. These values are not just necessary for individual well-being, but are essential for the collective survival and flourishing of all people. By embracing a moral vision based on compassion and interconnection, we can work toward creating a world where suffering is alleviated and human dignity is preserved for all. The role of compassion in modern science, a moral framework for discovery. As scientific and technological advancements continue to accelerate, the ethical implications of these discoveries become ever more critical. Einstein recognized that science, while immensely powerful in explaining the natural world and solving material problems, must also be tempered by a deep sense of moral responsibility. Without ethical consideration, scientific progress can lead to unforeseen consequences, sometimes exacerbating the very suffering it seeks to alleviate. Einstein's insistence on compassion as a guiding force in scientific exploration underscores the need for a moral framework in all technological and scientific endeavors. He understood that scientific discoveries, whether in medicine, physics, or engineering, have the potential to reshape society in profound ways. However, he also warned that science without ethics could lead to exploitation, environmental destruction, and human suffering. Just as a scientist must rigorously test theories and hypotheses, so too must they consider the broader ethical implications of their work. This ethical dimension is crucial as we enter an era of unprecedented scientific and technological advancement. Advances in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, genetic engineering, and climate science have the potential to solve many of the world's most pressing problems, but they also pose significant risks if misused. Einstein's call for a compassionate approach to scientific discovery is more relevant today than ever before. As we continue to push the boundaries of what is scientifically possible, we must also ensure that our discoveries are guided by compassion, respect for life, and a commitment to the well-being of all. In Buddhism, the concept of karuna, compassion, is central to the ethical framework that guides not only personal behavior but also societal actions. Compassion, in the Buddhist sense, is not a vague feeling of pity or sympathy but a selfless action aimed at alleviating suffering. Compassionate action involves understanding the interconnectedness of all beings and working towards solutions that benefit the whole, not just the individual. This principle of compassion can serve as a powerful guide for modern scientists and innovators, encouraging them to consider the broader implications of their work and to prioritize the welfare of all living beings, including the planet itself. Buddhism also teaches that true wisdom arises from the cultivation of mindfulness and awareness. This same mindset can be applied to the practice of science. Mindfulness in scientific inquiry involves being conscious of the potential consequences of discoveries and innovations. It requires asking difficult questions about how these advancements will impact the environment, society, and the future. Just as mindfulness helps individuals become more aware of their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, it can help scientists and researchers become more aware of the ethical implications of their work. By incorporating compassion and mindfulness into the scientific process, we can ensure that scientific progress is not only intellectually rigorous but also morally responsible. The integration of compassion into modern science can help steer technological advancements toward solutions that address global challenges, such as climate change, poverty, and disease, while ensuring that these solutions are equitable, sustainable, and beneficial for all. A unified vision for the future, ethics, science, and compassion. As we look to the future, it is clear that science, ethics, and compassion must work together to address the complex challenges of our time. Einstein and the Buddha both recognized that the alleviation of suffering requires a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings, and that true progress depends on the cultivation of ethics, wisdom, and compassion. The future of humanity will be shaped not just by scientific discoveries, but by how those discoveries are used to promote the well-being of all people, the planet, and future generations. Einstein's moral philosophy and the Buddhist teachings provide complementary visions for the future. Both believe that the key to addressing the challenges we face lies in a compassionate, interconnected approach to the world, whether in the realms of science, politics, or social responsibility. Both Einstein and the Buddha emphasize that true progress is not just about material advancement, but about fostering a deeper sense of empathy, understanding, and collective responsibility. In the modern world, where technological advancements continue to accelerate at an unprecedented pace, the role of ethics and compassion has never been more important. The challenges we face, climate change, inequality, technological disruptions, require a global response based on compassion, cooperation, and social responsibility. The future of humanity depends on our ability to integrate scientific innovation with ethical principles that prioritize the common good and the well-being of all living beings. The teachings of Einstein and the Buddha offer a roadmap for this future. They remind us that while knowledge and technology are powerful tools, they must be guided by compassion and wisdom. As we continue to advance in our scientific and technological capabilities, we must ensure that we do so with a deep sense of moral responsibility. By embracing both the scientific and ethical dimensions of progress, we can create a future where science serves humanity's highest ideals, justice, compassion, and the alleviation of suffering for all. Part 10. The final integration, science, Buddhism, and the path forward. The convergence of two worlds, a unified path to understanding. At the intersection of science and spirituality lies a remarkable opportunity for humanity to better understand the universe and our place within it. The brilliant minds of Albert Einstein and the Buddha, though separated by time and culture, offer us complementary frameworks for navigating the complexities of existence. Einstein's intellectual pursuit and the Buddha's spiritual path, though different in their methods, converge in their shared commitment to inquiry, wisdom, and compassion in the quest for truth. Einstein's contributions to physics reshaped our understanding of the external world. Through his theories of relativity and the groundbreaking equation E equals mc2 equals mc caret 2 equals mc2, he revealed that time and space are not fixed, but fluid and interconnected. His work demonstrated that the universe operates as an intricate system of relations, where everything is connected and interdependent. However, Einstein's scientific worldview was not confined to physical phenomena. He believed that the study of the universe could not be separated from the ethical and moral dimensions of human existence. He often spoke of the importance of compassion and a deep sense of social responsibility in using knowledge to improve humanity's condition. On the other hand, The Buddhist teachings focus on the internal landscape of the mind, offering a method for understanding and transforming the forces that shape our perceptions and experiences. Buddhism's emphasis on mindfulness, meditation, and ethical conduct provides a guide for cultivating wisdom and compassion that transcends the self-centered desires that often lead to suffering. While science, particularly in Einstein's vision, explores the external workings of the universe, Buddhism turns inward to understand the nature of human consciousness and the mental patterns that cloud our perception of reality. Together, the perspectives of Einstein and the Buddha provide us with a holistic approach to solving the mysteries of existence. While science helps us understand the world around us, Buddhism offers insight into the inner workings of the mind. Each offers a path that complements the other. Science guides us through the material world, and Buddhism helps us navigate the mental and emotional landscapes that shape our experience of reality. The integration of these two realms offers a comprehensive framework for addressing the challenges of existence, leading us toward deeper understanding and greater wisdom. A future of unity and understanding, bridging the divide. Looking ahead, one of the greatest challenges and opportunities humanity faces will be in integrating the insights of both science and spirituality. In the modern world, we often find these two fields treated as separate, science focused on the external world, and spirituality concerned with the inner realm. However, as our understanding of the universe deepens, we are beginning to see how these two domains are not opposing forces but complementary aspects of the human experience. Quantum physics, for example, has uncovered a universe far more interconnected and fluid than we once imagined. Subatomic particles do not exist as isolated entities but are entangled with each other, affecting one another regardless of distance. This phenomenon, known as quantum entanglement, reveals a level of interconnectedness that was previously unimaginable, resonating deeply with Buddhist teachings of pratitya samutpada, dependent origination, and anatta, non-self. In Buddhism, everything arises in dependence upon other factors, and nothing exists in isolation. The recognition of this interdependence is at the heart of the Buddha's path to liberation. Einstein himself, in his later years, spoke about the interconnectedness of all things, emphasizing that the physical laws of the universe demonstrate a unity that transcends the apparent separateness of objects and events. His insights into the nature of space, time, and energy also reflect this interconnectedness, showing that reality is a dynamic, ever-changing system in which everything is in constant relation to everything else. As we continue to push the boundaries of human understanding through scientific discovery, we must also remember that true wisdom comes from recognizing our place within this interconnected system. We are not isolated individuals, but integral parts of a vast, interconnected web of life. The Buddhist teachings remind us that true liberation comes not from grasping or controlling the world around us, but from understanding our role within this web and acting with compassion toward all living beings. The integration of these insights, from science's exploration of the interconnected universe to Buddhism's teachings on the interconnectedness of all life, offers a path forward that embraces both intellectual understanding and spiritual wisdom. The role of compassion, a moral framework for scientific progress. As scientific advancements continue to reshape the world, the ethical implications of these discoveries become increasingly significant. In the past century, we have witnessed tremendous technological progress, from the development of the atomic bomb to the rise of artificial intelligence. While these innovations have the potential to improve human life, they also present moral challenges that cannot be ignored. The rapid pace of technological change necessitates a careful consideration of how these discoveries are applied in the world. Einstein, in his reflections on science and society, consistently emphasized the need for ethics to guide scientific progress. He understood that knowledge without compassion and moral responsibility could lead to destructive outcomes. For Einstein, scientific inquiry must be coupled with a deep sense of social responsibility, a responsibility to ensure that discoveries serve the greater good and do not cause harm to humanity or the planet. He often spoke of the importance of using scientific knowledge to alleviate suffering and promote peace, rather than to perpetuate conflict or inequality. Buddhism, with its deep emphasis on compassion, provides a moral framework for approaching these ethical challenges. The Buddhist concept of karuna, compassion, teaches that true wisdom involves recognizing the suffering of others and acting selflessly to alleviate it. This compassion extends not only to human beings, but to all sentient life and the environment. In Buddhism, compassion is not a passive emotion, but an active force that drives ethical action. The Buddhist teachings emphasize that we must be mindful of our impact on others and the world, recognizing that our actions have far-reaching consequences. In the context of modern science, integrating compassion into scientific inquiry becomes an imperative, as new technologies emerge that have the potential to shape the future of humanity, such as genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and climate interventions. It is crucial that these advancements are guided by ethical considerations that prioritize the well-being of all life. Compassionate science seeks to ensure that technological progress serves the common good, is sustainable, and fosters harmony, rather than exacerbating social inequalities or causing environmental harm. Einstein's vision of science as a pursuit that is deeply embedded in human values is mirrored in Buddhist ethics. Both emphasize that knowledge and discovery must be directed toward promoting the welfare of all beings. As we advance in science, we must also cultivate compassion and mindfulness, ensuring that we approach our discoveries with a sense of responsibility and care. The future of humanity depends not only on scientific progress, but on the ethical framework that guides it. The final integration, a new path for humanity. As we look to the future, the integration of science and spirituality offers a profound opportunity for humanity. In the past, these realms were often viewed as distinct or even oppositional. Science focused on objective facts, while spirituality addressed subjective experiences. However, as our understanding of both the universe and the mind deepens, it becomes increasingly clear that science and spirituality are complementary aspects of the same quest for truth. Einstein and the Buddha both recognized the importance of understanding the nature of reality. Einstein through his scientific inquiry and the Buddha through his spiritual teachings. Both sought liberation from suffering. Though their methods differed, Einstein through knowledge, discovery, and the application of reason, the Buddha through inner transformation, mindfulness, and the cultivation of compassion. Despite their different approaches, both figures understood that the ultimate goal was to alleviate suffering and to foster wisdom that could benefit all beings. The integration of science and spirituality has the potential to guide humanity toward a future that is not only scientifically advanced, but also deeply ethical and compassionate. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the universe and unlock the potential of technology, we must remember that true progress lies not only in our intellectual achievements, but in our ability to use that knowledge for the betterment of all life. This requires not just intellectual curiosity, but also moral responsibility, a responsibility to ensure that the advances we make in science, medicine, and technology serve the common good and promote harmony and well-being for all. The future of humanity depends on our ability to integrate the wisdom of both Einstein and the Buddha. We must combine scientific inquiry with compassion and ethical conduct, creating a world where knowledge and wisdom work hand in hand. By embracing the interconnectedness of all things and acting with compassion, we can build a society that is not only enlightened but also compassionate, one that seeks knowledge not for its own sake, but for the betterment of all beings. As we move forward into an era of rapid technological advancements, the lessons of both Einstein and the Buddha offer us a guide for navigating the complexities of modern life. Let us strive to live with curiosity, compassion, and wisdom, embracing the interconnectedness of all things and the profound mysteries of the universe. By doing so, we can ensure a future where both scientific progress and spiritual wisdom work together to create a more just, compassionate, and enlightened world. As we come to the end of this exploration into the convergence of science and Buddhism, one thing becomes clear: the quest for understanding, whether through the lens of scientific discovery or the pursuit of spiritual awakening, is a shared journey. Einstein's contributions to our understanding of the universe and the Buddhist teachings on the nature of suffering both offer us invaluable tools for navigating the complexities of existence. But perhaps more importantly, They offer us a roadmap for transforming not just our understanding of the world, but the very way we interact with it. In a world that is increasingly defined by technological advancements and global challenges, the need for a balanced approach to knowledge and wisdom has never been more urgent. By embracing the scientific curiosity that Einstein championed and the deep compassion that the Buddha taught, we can create a future that is both enlightened and compassionate, one where knowledge and ethics work hand in hand to benefit all beings. The lessons from both Einstein and the Buddha urge us to look beyond the limitations of our individual perspectives and see the interconnectedness of all things. In doing so, we can foster a world where compassion, wisdom, and scientific innovation guide us toward a future that is harmonious, sustainable, and just. This journey of integration is not just about intellectual pursuit or spiritual practice. It is about creating a world where both science and spirituality serve the common good. As we move forward into an era defined by rapid change, let us strive to live with curiosity, compassion, and wisdom, following in the footsteps of Einstein and the Buddha. By doing so, we can cultivate a society that values both intellectual inquiry and ethical responsibility, ensuring that the progress we make serves not just our own interests, but the greater good of all. If you found these insights valuable and believe in the power of both science and spirituality to transform the world, I encourage you to share this video with others. Let's spread these ideas far and wide. Comment below, like, share, and subscribe to Charles' Mindful Nexus. Together, we can continue the journey of integrating science, wisdom, and compassion for a brighter future.